Hello everyone, welcome back to Aisha Scrum platform, a place for our Scrum Master to continue learn and grow. And also for people that want to be Scrum Masters, I'm going to put in a lot of learning content and also different ways we can succeed in this role. So for today's topic, I am going to be interpreting the burn down chart. And the burn down chart is metrics that we use in Scrum to look at how our team are completing their work based on the sprint. And each team burn down chart cannot be the same because there's a lot of factors that affect the burn down chart. So I'm going to be sharing my screen and show you all example of burn down chart using Jira. And Jira is the software project management tool where we track all our work in Scrum. And it can be used for a lot of projects, not just Scrum. So some waterfall projects, they use Jira. But for today's topic, my goal is to interpret the burn down chart and be very basic and simple as possible. Because the goal is for anyone that's new to this or that want to learn further about what all this line means, what does this mean? I don't understand the line going up and down. I've been getting a lot of requests about the burn down chart and also how to interpret it, right? All right, so let's get on it. So before I start interpreting the line and what line is what, let's just start going into the basics. Let's start with the y-axis. In the y-axis, we have the story points. And the story points goes from the 0 to 25 for this particular sprint. And this sprint, looking at the bottom, the days, I can see the sprint at the x-axis, that's the days in the sprint. And this sprint is a 10-day sprint. 2-week sprints, as we all know, according to the Scrum Guide, the maximum week we can spend in a sprint is 4 weeks, right? 1 month. For this particular burn down chart, it's based on a 2-week sprint. And this sprint basically started in the middle of the week. And how did I know that? Because I could see that this gray area, which is saying non-working days, the gray area is the weekend. The weekend meaning the days that we are not working. And so let's get into it. The first gray line that you see, it says guided line. And this first gray line is this long gray line we can see here. And that's Jira. That's Jira predicting based on the commitment we had at the beginning of the sprint. Jira thinks that our project and our user story or our product backlog item, our PBI or ticket is all the same, all means the same. Based on those items that was picked for this sprint, the work should be burned down in this format, right? So ideally, according to what we picked for this sprint, our work should be going down this way using this line, right? And the red line, it's saying that is the remaining work. That means in reality, that's what we're doing as a team. Our team is actually our true progress on how we are burning down our work is the red line. So although Jira stated that based on our commitment, we should be able to complete our work using this regular guided line, but in reality, our team, we actually working at this pace, which is what we want to know, the red line. So that's something we want to know as a Scrum Master to see what your team is doing and how your team is doing their work, looking at the red line. So that's what it tells you exactly where your team stands. And the burn down chart basically shows work that's remaining to be completed in a sprint. So as the work is completed, the line will go down. We want our line to go down because that shows that, oh, we are getting our work done. Yeah, it means the line is going down, then we are doing the right thing. We want it to go down. Eventually, at the end of the week, at the end of the sprint, all of our tickets should go down. So that's the red line. And the next line is the non-working days. So the non-working days can be the weekend, right? Because the weekend, that's something we don't count. It's not part of our 10-day sprint, although like we know in the 2 weeks, there's a weekend, but we do not count those weekends. We only count the 10 working days. So that's why if you notice, there's a white line here, and this line here is a gray, it's a little bit grayish. So that's telling me that it's a non-working days. And in this sprint, we have 2 weekends because I can see these 2 bar line. All right, so for this sprint, on the first day of this sprint, we see that this particular team, they're committed to 25 story points. And how did I know that? Looking at the y-axis and the June 30th, the day that the sprint started on the line, it's saying that this team committed to 24 story points, close to 25, right? Because you can see it on the line there. And the good thing about it, if you hover over it, it tells you like, oh, this team committed for that. So in the beginning, after the story points already were attached to the user stories, and everyone did their confidence votes, everyone agreed that we're going to be working on this item, and we started the sprint. Yay, we started at 24. And throughout the day, team was already working so hard. And you see that same around the 30th to the July 1st, the team completed 1 story point. They completed one of the user stories and it says -5, meaning that they completed a story. They closed a ticket. They closed the user story, which is what we want to see, right? And the line went down, which is good. We want to see that. And as we continue to complete our tickets, the line hopefully will continue to go down. So they completed another ticket again, the line went down again. And if you noticed, from June 30th till around July-ish, July 28th, July the 8th, the line was just flat. So the line was straight. There was nothing going up. There was nothing going down. So when the line is flat, it means that there is no movement. So then I'm going to further go into detail about the difference between the line being too flat. There will be a lot of factors that can affect that. Then somewhere around the July 8th to July 9th, then the line went down again. Then we burn down the work. Then we remain flat for the weekend, right? Because the weekend we are not working. Then after the weekend, the team came back to work. And guess what? They completed all of their work. And they completed it even before the sprint closed. This is good thing. We as a Scrum Master, we get so excited when we see this. Like, oh yes, our team is working so hard. They're working on schedule. Like, although there was a long flat line between the days in this sprint, but at the end, we were able to complete our commitment. All right, so let's talk about factors that can affect a line being this flat, right? There can be multiple factors. One of them being that it's a weekend, right? If it's a weekend, you always see the line is flat. Because on the weekend, Jira knows that on the weekend, we do not work. So automatically our line will be flat, meaning that we are not going to be doing anything on that. Other factors too that can affect our line being flat, it's holiday. Yeah, it's holidays. So on holidays, we do not work, right? And during the holidays, you see also the line is flat. And when the line is flat, it means that we did not update anything. Nothing was get to done. So another misconception I hear a lot about some Scrum Masters to say that, oh, my team, they're not doing too well. They're not updating their Scrum board. They're not updating their Scrum board. My burn down chart is flat. You have to be very cautious in saying that, right? So it's very, very important to know that before the burn down chart can read a ticket being done, the tickets must hit the done column. So sometimes we all know that there's a different workflow in our Scrum board, right? Sometimes we have our to-do in development complete, in code review done, ready for QA, QA in progress, QA done, PO review, then done. So all those phases that this ticket is going from one column to another, the JIRA burn down chart will not reflect to those columns and those steps that ticket is actually going through. The burn down chart can only read when the ticket goes from all those processes and it must hit done. So sometimes your team might be working on the tickets, but it might take like little days to get done with their development work, to do their code review, and then give it to QA. The team is actually moving their tickets from one workflow to another as they are doing their work. But you can look at the burn down chart, it might not reflect on that. Because why? That particular ticket did not hit the done column. So that's why it's very, very important to know that when you look at a burn down chart, you don't only focus on the burn down chart, you're also like looking at the Scrum board and ensuring that it's actually not, you're not just saying it that, oh, my team is not updating their board, but actually they are updating their board, just that that ticket didn't get to done. So when the ticket do get to done, and guess what? Then the line will go down. So that's about flat line. So what are ways also can affect a line going down, like being completed? There's a lot of other factors, right? So for example, when a ticket is completed, that's the easier one, the line will go down when you hit the done column. And when we remove from the sprint, because sometimes we know for some reason we have to pull something out and take on a new task that's a higher priority. And when that happens, when you pull that ticket out of the board for an ongoing sprint, the line will go down. The line will go down, indicating that something was removed from the sprint. Although the work is not done, right? But the burn down chart will still count it as something being taken out. So the line will go down. That's one factor. Another factor that can affect the line going down is when an estimate is changed from 3, for example, to 1. Let's say we change a user story from 3 story points to 1 story point, but we know that's not a good practice, right? If you estimate something is good for you to go through it and do a retrospective, you retrospect from that, and hopefully you do a better estimate going forward. But I've seen a team where I've been called, I observe their board and I see that they change estimate. They change the estimate from 3 and then now put it to 1. And I'll look at the burn down chart and I'll see that the work was not done. It's just that they removed something out of the sprint or they changed the estimate from higher one to a lower estimate. So that's another factor that can see the line going down. Another time too, you can see a line that's flat, like no change, is when you have a story point of 0, right? Because 0 is no change. When a 0 is no change, then you see the line flat. You see the circle column, but the line will be flat also. All right, so next we're going to talk about, I'm going to give another example of a different burn down chart, and hopefully you all can see another way to interpret another burn down chart. So another one I'm going to give example of is this burn down chart. And this burn down chart, let's talk about this one, right? This one looks very different from the other burn down chart, right? So burn down chart can be different sprint to sprint. So it's very important for you as a Scrum Master to be able to not only understand what's going on, but also for you to be able to interpret it to your team, to leadership, and anyone. So it's a very, very good skill for you to have as a Scrum Master, for you to be able to interpret the burn down chart. All right, so we all already understand that the y-axis is the story points, right? And the x-axis is the days in the sprint. We're still going to have the same technique of this sprint being a 2-week sprint, 10 days, without counting the weekends. All right, so looking at this sprint, there's a lot of changes that happen in this sprint. So the first day of the sprint, I can see the team committed to 13 story points. on the beginning of the sprint. When the sprint starts, they committed to 13 story points. But what happened after the sprint started? After the sprint started, boom, the line went up. The line went up from 13 to all the way to 18, right? The line went up high on the same day, on the same exact day. There will be a lot of factors can determine or that can affect, think about why that can happen on the same day, right? So we can go back to that. And then the line was flat from the same day the sprint started till all the way till the 17th. Then on the 17th, we started seeing our line going down, which is what we want, right? We want our line to go down because that shows that we are burning down our work. Our ticket is going hitting the done column and we are completing our work. And then another ticket was completed. And then we go all the way down until we were within the ideal line. We were like, yes, we are ahead schedule. Now we're doing this. We are ahead schedule. We are doing our work. We are doing it right. We already got to a point that we are doing it right. And guess what happened? Boom, flat line. We now had flat line from that day on all the way to the end of the sprint. This red line where we at, we never went down. So I hope you all guessing it. Yes, this particular team had a spillover. So when this red line did not go all the way down, so when I look at the board, it's telling me that this team had a spillover. This team did not complete all of their tasks. They didn't complete all of the work that was given. So that's something that I'll 100% bring up in retrospective and definitely bring that up during the next sprint planning so we all can talk about what happened, right? So let's go back to the beginning of the sprint, what happened. So if you notice this same day, the sprint started, the same day, the scope change. Another thing that you can see a line going up. It also can be called scope change in Scrum. So we saw the scope change happening. But what are factors that affected the scope change? A lot of things. People be like, oh, maybe we forgot to add a ticket. Maybe we forgot to account for that work, or maybe a priority change, something happened. But there's a lot of things we always think about outside of what other things can happen. In this particular case, things that actually affected this sprint was that after this sprint already started, then we had a user story that's already on the board, but that user story, the team couldn't agree on an estimate for that work. So the team couldn't agree on that, and we had a time limit. We had to start the sprint, and the team was they were having the conversation about it. So they said, like, you know what, we have to start this sprint just because of this one user story cannot hold up the whole sprint. So we then started the sprint. Then after a while, then the team came to an agreement that, okay, so now this particular user story, we can just give it a 5. So what is the thing that happened? It was not a ticket that was added. It was a user story estimate, a story point that was added to the sprint. User story was already in there. So if you add an estimate to a user story, that can create a scope change. So because you are adding to it, when you add it, something to the sprint, the line will go up. And when you change your estimate from, for example, from a 3-story point to a 5-story point, the line will go up. And then again, if like your scope change in the middle of the sprint where the PO will be like, okay, team, this is something that's higher priority. It cannot wait for the next 2 weeks. So we must take on this item, this user story. We have issues in production, and guess what? We are taking on that task, and hopefully your team will remove something else. So when you add on that new item, that new user story, and the estimate's already in place, guess what? It's going to reflect on your burn down chart. And then when you add, the line go up. When you change the estimates to a higher amount, the line will go up. So always don't just think about, when you look at the burn down chart, just don't think about, oh, it's because user story was added. It's very important to know that it's the story points the story points. That's what's actually being shown on the burn down chart, not the number of user story or the number of the tickets you have in your board, but instead the number of the story points you have in your user story. So that's very, very important to know. So the burn down chart is very valuable. It's something that you can learn. And if you can interpret this and know it so well, you can use this data to help your team, and you can look at your burn down chart and interpret this and get your team to know how they are doing, right? It's very important for everyone to know where they stand and how they are doing in their work. So I will highly encourage you to take your time and learn how to read the burn down chart. And if this lecture or this little mini burn down chart intro is valuable to you, please like and subscribe to my channel as Aisha Scrum. I truly appreciate you all for all the love and support. Thank you all and hope to see you all again. Have a wonderful day.